Good morning. I don't really know how to start this, so I'm just gonna dive in, start talking. I had a question about how I do my log cabin blocks without foundation paper, and so I figured I'd just make a video and show you how. And I've been kind of struggling with this voiceover because it's harder than I expected to put into words a very simple process, and this really is a pretty simple process. Going in, I'm just assuming that if you're here, you probably have some knowledge about quilting and just the basic stuff. You probably know how a log cabin block is usually made with the pre-measured pieces, or by using foundation paper or muslin as a foundation, and that they're assembled from the center out. I'm using, as almost always, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And yes, you are going to see me backstitch a lot in this video. I am the mad backstitcher. I love that button, man. Just in my experience, things tend to stay stitched together better when I backstitch. I know a lot of times with quilting, you don't backstitch because you're going to be sewing across the ends of your seams. You're going to be cutting off the ends of your seams, but the way I do it this way, I don't. When I backstitch someplace, I'm pretty confident that that backstitching is still going to be there whenever I move on to the next step. But it won't always, and that doesn't stop me from doing it. For this quilt, I'm using 2.5 inch squares for the center and then 1.5 inch strips. Those sizes work really well with my scrap management system. And if I've already got pieces this size cut, then I find that if I've got, 20 minutes to sit down and work on something, that I can usually get one of these blocks done. I really like using 2.5 inch squares for the center and then using 1.5 inch strips, because I end up with a block that is about 8.5 inches square. It's just a little bit more than 8.5 inches, so I can trim it down with an 8.5 inch ruler, and that's just happens to be my favorite size to work in. So I apologize, y'all. I am not a big fan of this voiceover stuff, so I'm probably not going to say nearly enough to describe what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. Please ask questions if you have them. I'm most likely just going to let the video do most of the explaining about what I'm doing here.
love the most about this method is this. See that teeny tiny little scrap of fabric there? That's all I'm throwing away. See, and that's my little trash barrel there. That's my thread ends and my trimmings. And yeah, I don't throw away very much when I'm doing it this way. When I'm trimming these off, I try to just focus on keeping the corners 90 degrees, as close to 90 degrees as I can get. If you do cut those corners just a little bit short, then it sucks your corners in and it affects the shape of the rest of the blocks. I'm pointing this little patch out here because this is how I try to remember which side I'm actually currently working on. This is the one that has the little center patch, the side, the edge that has the center patch, and then the two end pieces. Because I have sewn onto the wrong side of these, I don't know how many times. This is how I like to do a whole bunch of these units at the same time. I just have one of these strips and then I just add on the smaller units one after the other. I just lift up that strip or lift up my presser foot, whatever I need to get out of the way, and put my unit there, and then just keep sewing. And then I like to keep about at least 1/8 of an inch in between those units there on the strip, and sometimes a little more, so that I have plenty of room to cut it with scissors in between there and not get too close to either side. just gonna press it up and make it pretty. If you saw anything that you have questions about or you have a comment on it, please let me know. I'm planning some more videos probably about this same thing, and then I'm also working on the Hexies videos. I haven't forgotten. And anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I'll see you next time.